First up, let me talk to Utah Republican Senator Mike Lee. He is not only a lawyer, he is a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee and also the author of the fantastic book written out of history, The Forgotten Founders Who Fought Big Government. That is now available in paperback and a perfect summer read, if I do say so myself. Welcome back to the show, Senator.
Thank you very much, Kennedy. Good to be with you.
So you have clerked in the Supreme Court. Your name has been floated as a possible nominee to become an Associate Justice. So you tell me, does the president have the absolute power to pardon himself?
You know, I'm not aware of anything in the Constitution that says that he doesn't have that power. It's just the same. Just because he could doesn't mean that he should. And I think it's pretty clear that he shouldn't. It would be a big mistake politically to do so.
And everyone on his team, everyone who's been asked about this, those surrounding him, they all echo exactly what you said, that it would be a bad idea. And I think the president knows that. So why bring it up in the first place?
I don't know. They like to talk about this issue. They like to speak of it as if it somehow created a constitutional crisis, even to suggest it. I think it's a moot point because I don't think he's ever going to do that because it would be bad. It would be a bad political move for him, and he knows that.
All right. But it's also one of those issues that really hasn't been pushed to its limit. So we don't know the full scope of something like that were it to happen. You know, the president could conceivably pardon himself and then be impeached, and, you know, which takes precedence, the impeachment or the pardon. We don't know that yet, and I don't think anyone wants to answer those questions.
Yeah, but keep in mind, the impeachment is different from a criminal consequence. Impeachment is a political decision made within a political branch of government. A pardon deals with criminal liability imposed in a federal court after criminal proceedings. So they are two different things.
Okay, they're two different things, but one seems to precede the other. So there are those who said, even people on the president's team, that if he does, in fact, pardon himself for something he's not guilty of, clearly, but if he did self-pardon, that would lead to impeachment. That's what they have said. That's what Rudy Giuliani said.
Yeah, they love to talk about this issue, and I think it's apparent why.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, we've got a lot of other issues to talk about, issues that they themselves don't want to talk about. That's why they keep returning to this one.
I think you're right. I think that it ultimately is a big distraction. And is the president using it to his advantage?
Well, I don't know. I mean, only time will tell whether he's using it to his advantage. But it's important to remember here that we do have a constitutional system. The system works well. And one of the things that always exasperates me is when they talk about this, they speak of it as if it's a separation of powers issue, that the tension between the special counsel and the presidency somehow creates a separation of powers issue. Well, that's part of the same branch that he supervises. It is the executive branch of government. The executive branch of government is, in fact, answerable to him.
And that was part of the basis of the 20-page memo that Fox News got a hold of that leaked over the weekend. It's interesting because as we talk about constitutional crises and we talk about the rule of law and checks and balances, you know, we speak of the Constitution as though it's something that's very static, whose conclusions were reached quite easily. But as you point out in your book, that is not necessarily the case. And actually, your book reminds me the way you talk about the forgotten members of the conversation regarding the Constitution. It almost reminds me of the scientific method and how that came to be.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I appreciate you raising that issue. It's one of the reasons why I wrote my book, Written Out of History, is to point out that we've got a lot of provisions of the Constitution we've forgotten about, we've neglected. And we have forgotten at the same time, for similar reasons, about some of the lost founders, the forgotten founders, who have been fighting big government for a very long time. People like Canasatego, who taught Benjamin Franklin in 1744 about the Iroquois system of government, about how these tribes came together for limited purposes to provide for their common defense, but maintained their right to govern themselves at a local level. We've forgotten about Canasatego, in part because we've forgotten about that constitutional principle embedded in the 10th Amendment and in the body of the Constitution itself. But as we restore these names to our political discussion, it's my hope that we'll rediscover the principles.
All right, a scholar of law and history and a rare voice in the Senate. Thank you so much, Senator Lee.
Thank you, Kennedy.